Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance and Beyond podcast. My name is Devin Ransom, here with my wonderful friend, Mike Kurtley.
Hello,
And
everybody.
what's that?
I said, hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
That's
everybody.
right. And we have our guest, Connor MacNeil. Connor is one of the founders of Jumpsuit, the main man. Looking forward to our conversation here, Connor. But before we get started, guys, let's chew about our day, man. How's everything going?
Well, I will tell you, we might have got through our fake spring. We might actually be in spring in West Virginia.
Huge.
It's like 71 degrees outside right now.
It's
Yes,
awesome.
I think it's 75 here. It is.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. And I think our low last night was like 35.
Yeah.
So it's 35, then 75. Perfect weather to get sick.
Yep, exactly. Recently over the weekend. Well, 2 weeks ago, I put out 1,000 pounds of lime with a push spreader, and I sowed 300 pounds of grass because the drought last year completely crushed my yard. And I'm getting married in 6 weeks in my front yard.
Oh, nice.
Grass better start growing, man.
That looks like
That's
a
right.
desert. I'm like, well, I didn't think that through.
Out here, a lot of guys will they actually like burn their lawn, right? They burn their lawn to get it kind of cleared out so that the undergrowth.
Yeah.
Now, Mike actually took on a new acquisition of a special way to actually burn his lawn. Mike, why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. It's one of those things you got to be real careful about. And as an insurance guy, I'm the one that, needs to test everything. But I happened to find a very nice flamethrower on the internet. And when I say flamethrower, I don't mean one of those torches you hook to an LP tank. I mean the kind that'll shoot a flame out 35, 40 feet.
Do you have a backpack for that?
It does not come with a backpack. It's got a gas tank attached to the bottom of it.
It can't be safe.
It's best to mix with gas and diesel 50-50. And here's why. Diesel is very sticky and it's got a higher flash point. So the gas burns quick. So this past January, I actually caught snow on fire and sat out and watched snow burn.
Interesting.
The diesel would
Nationwide
stick.
know about this?
You know what? My insurance is not with Nationwide. So no, that's okay. I don't know. We don't need to put them on blast. I've been known to do a few. Hey, y'all watch this.
Well, that's how he cleared the top of his mountain for his house, man.
Yeah.
To put a bunch of tannerite up there.
Yep.
Packed it full of holes.
Shoot it with a bunch of
explosions later.
There you go.
Connor, you get all kinds in here. Do you have any tannerite or any flamethrowers or anything fun?
I live in Massachusetts, so I'm thinking about getting one so I don't have to shovel snow next winter.
It works, trust me.
Flamethrower my whll driveway.
I will send you the link. I found it online out of a company in Georgia, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and tell who you are, because if you are like me, you just like toys. Safford Trading Company, Safford, and it's an exothermic flamethrower. Rapid fire. I think it's called Rapid Pulse or Rapid Fire Exothermic, exothermic on Safford Trading. So if anybody here is listening and you know Safford Trading, tell them I appreciate them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Will, I actually wrote that down. So I may be a new client of theirs.
I've had my parents and friends, and they'll come up and I'll be like, you want to shoot a flamethrower? And I can't even get the words out before they're like, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I've never seen anyone so far not use it and instantly smile. I mean, it's one of those going, oh, this is awesome. The only person that doesn't like it is my mother.
Mm.
And her thing is, why do you have a flamethrower? My answer is, why would you not?
Why not?
I mean, zombies are attacking one day, right?
That's right.
I mean, you got to be prepared.
On the insurance side, I have, I specialize in collector cars and anything kind of weird, right? So on the collector car side, I have a client that's got a World War II U.S. half track. So it's and kind of like a commander car, but it's a half track. So it's got the tracks in the back, the regular wheels in the front, but it's got a full turret that goes all the way around.
Wow.
And he's got a 50 cal machine gun that he has mounted on there. Now a lot of guys have a replica 50 cal machine gun. No, not him. He's got a FFL, so he's got a full on 50 cal machine gun. And he's like, "Hey man, you want to shoot this?"
Yeah.
Yes. Hello. Who would not want to shoot this?
Exactly. I'd be afraid to pay for the ammunition.
We just have to make sure that we remove the gun before we take the pictures of the car to send it to the collector car company.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah, you could get a cardboard cutout of Rambo and stick him up there.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome.
That'd be great. Go to a local department store and see if you could buy one of their mannequins and dress him up and put him up there in the turret. Drive around town like that.
That's perfect. Guys, this obviously is all things insurance, but this is fun. I enjoy talking about weapons and anything that's
Yep.
weird out there.
Well, this is life. I mean, here's the thing
It
too.
is.
Let's talk about it before we jump in with Connor. I know when I got started, Devin, we've had extensive conversation when you got started. You get started and you literally work your ass off. I mean, Connor, you too. I mean, one of the founders of Jumpsuit Group. When you start a business, you're 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. If you're lucky, not 7. I mean, it's just how it is for the first couple of years. So you've got to enjoy your life.
That's right.
And if you don't, you're going to experience massive burnout. Everything's going to run together in your head. You're not going to be effective at your job. I didn't take the time, and I wish I did. I mean, you still got to bust your hind end to make the work, but there was times I could have been a little more restful, if you will, enjoyed life a little more. And I didn't do it till later in my career. And now looking back going, if I'd have took an extra day here or there, my career wouldn't have changed.
For sure.
So for those of you guys that's still early, if you're in your infancy in the insurance business, you're still getting started, don't hesitate to take half a day here, take a day there. Now, I don't recommend doing it every other day. That's not going to help. But take time to rest. Take time to recharge, because I promise you, if you take a couple of days off, that next day you're back, you're going to be way more effective than you would have been had you not.
Absolutely.
And in insurance, if you're more effective, that's all that matters. Hours at the office doesn't matter. Effectiveness matters.
Right.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that suck about starting a business too. Like you make a lot less money at first, you're
Yep.
working long hours, but the thing that you always control is you control who's telling you what to do, and that's you.
That's
So
right.
if there's something you want to go to in the morning, like even this morning, I was out surfing from like 7 in the morning until 9:30. Get back at 10, and like there's not a clock to punch or time
Right.
card,
That's
right?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you adjust your schedule accordingly. Okay. I'm not taking any calls. I'm not scheduling anything till 10:30. I've got my morning. I'll do it. Okay. So you may work till 6 this evening, just to compensate, but you've got the freedom.
Right.
You're the master of your schedule.
That's right.
Which I think is really why a lot of us go down this road. Obviously, compensation and things like that is a nice byproduct, but being able to manage your time, manage your schedule, have that flexibility to, if I want to take time off, I can.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to go somewhere, I can. If I want to work from someplace else, I can. Right? There's a lot of flexibility that goes along with it, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're setting yourself up right. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I was like, people look at me where I am now, right? And they don't look at where I was when I started.
Right.
And they don't see what you had to go through, the amount of times that, when I was first starting to sell, like how many times I didn't leave the office till 7, 8 o'clock at night. I was pulled off to the side of the road because I would get phone calls on my way home from the office to write a policy. And I'm literally I have one of those like police car, like desks, like in my car, right? So I can mount my computer. And I would pull off to the side of I-5, not the safest thing in the world. And guys, I would not recommend doing that. Pulling off to the side of 285 and pulling the laptop over and actually writing a policy and getting it knocked out. And my hour and a half drive would turn out to be a 2.5 to 3 hour drive because I'm stopping, every 20 to 30 minutes to write a policy to get it issued because I'm building a business. It's what you do. So speaking of that, Connor, tell me about Jumpsuit. Tell me about what you guys are. How'd you get started? Just kind of dig into it, man.
Give us the 411, bud.
Yeah, for sure. So we're a digital marketing agency, and our two primary goals are, one, to take the work off the agent's plate. So as tech savvy as Mike is, he's one of our clients, and we don't want him touching a single thing, right? He
I'll
also
second
wants
that.
us to kind of execute on everything for him, from websites to SEO content. We want to execute on that type of thing for agents. And then at the end of the day, we want to help them actually grow in whatever way that is, through lead generation or branding or awareness. The goals for every agent are different. And how we got started in that's kind of odd. Right out of college in 2013, I worked for another marketing agency that was run like absolute crap. And I had a book of clients, I'd say like 10 of them, and 4 or 5 of them were insurance agents. And that marketing agency folded. And when it folded, I was like, man, I feel like I can do this a little bit better. And so I called my 2 business partners now, who I went to high school with, Scott and Dan, and we grew up since we were 5 years old together. Dan was working for Coca-Cola and Scott was working for Tesla. And I called them. I was like, guys, like we could start a business together and actually have some money coming in. I think it was like $3,000 a month total of anything, but it was enough to have, we were profitable from day one, quote unquote.
Right.
And they quit their jobs. I gave them this book by the founder of HubSpot, just called Inbound Marketing 101. They read it the first week. I kind of coached them up on everything I knew. And we just started rolling, taking whatever we had to do for the existing clients. And the insurance agents that were my clients from the old marketing agency, one of them was part of this group, NAIA, which is a Northeast of the United States cluster of 60 or 70 or so agents. And they got us a presentation at their annual conference. I don't know how, but we were like 2014. I think I was 22. And we showed up and like, I still feel a little out of place as like the younger guy in insurance, but back then we stood out like sore thumbs, and we had like Rob Gronkowski all over our presentation, and we were throwing the remotes to each other. And we walked out of that presentation with like 6 or 7 more clients, because I think people in insurance just wanted young people to run digital programs for them. And as soon as we got back from the conference, say again?
Yeah.
I said,
No
yeah,
one
they
in
don't
insurance
understand
understands it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then they really didn't. Like think about 2014, what was going on, right? 2015. And so we got back from the conference. We told Scott's dad, because we were working out of Scott's basement. Every day I'd wake up, drive over to Scott's house, go in there. His dad would leave for work. And we told his dad, and he just sat us down. And he's like, listen, guys, you're not going to like it at first, but you guys are insurance specialists. He's like, you don't go after anyone but insurance agents. There's a lot of money in the industry. They need you guys. That's what you do now. And so we just took that and then started branding our whole company as insurance. So every new agent that we got after, we put on board, and eventually you get 10 agents and 20 agents. Then eventually you actually get good at what you're doing, right? Like we could do it, but we didn't do it specifically for insurance. Then we started figuring out the ins and outs of what different coverages are searched more than others and things like that. And that led us to partnerships and having kind of a reputation within the industry. And actually today is our 10th anniversary of Jumpsuit Group.
No kidding.
That's
Yeah. Congrats. That's awesome.
Perfect timing. So
yeah. So a couple quick questions. Your 2 partners, what did they do at Coke and Tesla? Were they marketing as well?
No. So to get a job at Tesla, even getting a job on the showroom floor is like kind of a big deal. Scott had to go through and do all this training and figure out, you had to apply and go through a rigorous interview process just to be a showroom floor guy. And so he went through this for like a year and a half, finally got the job. And then I think like a month after he got the job is when I called him, and he immediately quit. And the guy who hired him was like, man, you fucking serious? Like, you've been coming at this for a year and a half, you get the job and you quit. So he was on the showroom floor. And then my business partner, Dan, he was working for, is it Zico coconut water? So it's like a brand that Coca-Cola purchased. And he was doing like trade show-esque things, like working at all the trade shows, coordinating things for them. So more like boots on the ground. But I guess he was in marketing. But for the stuff that we do, right, like websites and digital and content, none of them had experience in it, right? Like they had never written a blog post or really even cared what a blog post was. Yeah.
So here's the question. What did Scott's dad, what was his career? Because it sounds so far, I mean, this guy had the insight to sit you all down and say, okay, focus here. That's completely random, but that's one of those things that changes your trajectory. What was his career?
100%. So Scott's dad is a salesman from, I think, the time that he started. And now he might have they had a kind of a weird either acquisition or someone moved on, and he became the president of their company, interim president. But they sell like sintered metal gears. So all the gears that are in cars start as powder. They get super compressed, and then I guess they're stronger than what typical metal forging is. And that's the stuff that goes out and is in like tractors and cars and trains and all of that. So he would sell those parts. He traveled all over the world. And so every day when he would come home, he would come downstairs, and the only question he would ask us is, hey, did you guys sell anything today? Because we were focused on like what our logo looked like and if the website was cool and, all this other stuff that doesn't really matter. So his wisdom was very, I guess, direct. It was, did you sell something? And here are the people that you should be selling it to. But every day he would ask us, and we got so proud when we're 22 and 23 years old, and we actually sold something. Absolutely. And he's like, great, go do it again. So we didn't know it, but he was very wise in his words. And one of the other things that he taught us was in-person meetings. He was really, really big on just calling someone up and just telling them that you're going to be in the next town over in 3 days. And then no matter what, if they say, yeah, just go, even if you have to fly there, go and meet with them. And he said that nothing replaces FaceTime. So we did these road trips all over New England to all those NAIA agents. We drive to Vermont, we drive to New Hampshire and Maine, and be like 12 hours on the road in a day and see 4 different agents. And I don't know if there's any other way to replace that kind of like hustle that you have to do in the beginning where you just
Right.
kind of get it done. But that
Well,
was all because of Scott's dad.
if you replace the hustle, you don't truly appreciate where you go.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
I
For
mean,
sure.
you never enjoy the view from the top of the mountain unless you've got through the valley to get there.
Yep. 100%.
So how does that, COVID changed everything? Your face-to-face meetings now, do you do more than Zoom? Do you consider that a face-to-face meeting, or do you still do as much face-to-face as you can?
No, I think the face-to-face was really good until we built our reputation. But when no one knows who you are, you got to go out and meet people.
Exactly.
And then when we started having COVID was interesting for us because we were always remote. But what we did in the beginning is we had a WeWork in Boston. So all of our business address was Boston. We told every agent that we had an office in Boston, but really we were working out of Scott's basement because as a startup, you can't afford anything.
Right.
So when COVID happened, everyone worked from home. And from that point forward, we didn't have to hide the fact that we were fully remote. And it turned every agent into kind of thinking, oh, maybe digital is important. Right. So it worked for us in a lot of ways. And it kind of like, we didn't have to shield things as much anymore because the young guys in the industry working remote, we kind of already built up this reputation. And now everyone kind of sees how Zoom can be a little more efficient. So we still do some in-person things, but we're not traveling around the same way anymore. And I'm not sure if agents want us coming around because people like working at home, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't want us showing up and agents have to put pants on instead of pajamas and whatever else they're doing.
Now, see, I don't want to picture Devin in pajamas. I don't want that. I do not want that at all.
Where are you at
So,
right now, Mike?
how many do what now?
Where am
Where
I?
are you at right now?
I'm at
Just
home.
outside,
Notice I'm not standing up. Okay.
Yeah,
I am going to stay seated. That's all I'm going to say.
yeah.
So Connor, how many clients does Jumpsuit have now?
We have just over 100 agents that we're working with.
Man,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's great. And I think what our goal is to not necessarily get the most amount of clients. Like obviously we'd love 1,000 clients, right? But the difference between what we do and then what some of our competitors do, like if you bring Jumpsuit Group up, our competitors are Bright Fire, Agency Revolution. I guess Zywave has a website product, but the way that they've built their companies is like, hey, here's a $200, $250 a month website. Great. Like kind of set it and forget it. We want obviously to someone to come to us for their website, but what we really want to do is go a little bit deeper and run marketing programs for them. So we'd rather have fewer clients running marketing programs than more clients just kind of on like I guess it's a service as a software service, like instead of SaaS, service as a service. Our business model isn't quite that. So we want to be a little bit more boutique. We have clients spending, some clients spend like 5 to 10 grand a month with us, where other clients are spending a couple $100 a month with us. And there's nothing wrong with either of them, but we'd rather kind of go deeper on marketing than have 1,000 clients just for a website.
Yeah. How many employees do you all have?
That's a good one. So we do, technically there's the 3 founders, right? And then every one of our employees is a contractor. So one of the things that we did from the start, since we were remote, is we couldn't bring anyone in-house. So we have a few, I want to say like 3 or 4 US based kind of like project managers. They're the ones that are forward facing to our clients. But then we have different virtual assistants in different countries based on what we're trying to do. Like we have a dev group that's out of India. We have some graphic designers that are out of Nigeria. We have some people in the Philippines. And we found that certain areas are better for certain things. Correct. But then you can't really replace what an insurance agent wants, which is just like easy communication. So that's what we kind of have, like US based product managers. And our team at this point is probably 15 or so people.
Okay.
Yeah, which is pretty great.
What has been the most eye-opening thing for you that you didn't know that was a good thing in dealing with insurance agents?
Interesting. Most eye-opening thing?
I mean, something that shocked you that was a good thing that you learned from dealing with insurance agents as you meet them and everything.
I didn't realize how much they trusted each other's opinions on things, right? So like, for example, with Chuck Webb and you, I had a good relationship with you. Chuck Webb calls you and you tell him about me, and all of a sudden Chuck's like, cool, Connor's in, like, and you start to find these people who know what they're talking about or people respect. And those people, it goes a long way to have good relationships with them. And that was something that I never really ran into before. And to this day, I don't fully understand because I think agents do a bad job vetting things, which is why they end up with like bad tech stacks and all that. But it was a very eye-opening thing to me. Where like if you actually can get in with the right people and show them what you can do, it goes such a long way.
hmm
We
Well,
have
and do you remember how I got with you?
the AC.
Well, yeah, but who did I talk to? Do you remember?
Did you talk to? There's one guy who refers us way more boys. Is it Bill Laurie?
It was.
Yeah, Bill Laurie's like our. We should honestly be paying him.
Yeah. Bill's a great buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him a year ago, January.
Right.
And just looking at the year, knowing I needed to make some changes. Okay, let's start the year out the right way.
Mhm.
Having a conversation with Bill about other things. And hey, Bill, by the way, who does your digital? Who does your website? I use Jumpsuit Group. All right, great. He goes, man, I just signed with them. They're already doing great. They're blasting my SEO. They've done this, they've done this, they've done this, all in a short amount of time. And I said, well, I know him very well. I just signed him with the AC. So I'm like, we just brought him into the group. And so I called you and I said, hey, you all work with Bill? You said, yes. I said, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, which is unbelievable to me. And that's great because it means that one, if you find someone like Bill, you can kind of trust his opinion. So now I start to go to him with like, hey, what do you think of this idea? Because if people trust him, there's a reason for it because he's successful, whether it's technology wise or just with his agency. But clearly he's got some sort of potion, right? That no
Yes.
one else has.
Yes.
And so
He
I
has a
can trust his
magic touch.
opinion.
Trust me. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's pretty cool. But he's exactly who I was thinking of. And we have another client up here that was one of our first clients who does very similar things for us. And those conversations are like they're irreplaceable. If you can have that relationship and then they just go out and they can have the hey, who do you use conversation? And they say one word about you, and all of a sudden you have like a very, very good chance of signing another client. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The insurance agents are there's tight knit friendships. And, same thing with Devin and I and several others. It's like, okay, what about this? Well, I use them. All right. Do you like them? Yeah. Well, then I'm going to call them and use them.
Right.
I mean, it's just real simple because if you trust that person's opinion, they're not going to lie to you. B, they're going to be honest with you if there were problems and they got vetted through, and I'm going to throw a random example. Let's say we're talking the phone system and I call Devin and say, Devin, man, my phone system is crap. Who do you use? I use ABC phone. How have they been? They're great, very cost effective. Now, I will tell you this, the transition was bumpy. Be prepared. Okay, well, he's been through it. He knows it. He's already prepared me. I'm prepared for it. When I'm prepared for it, it's not that bumpy. I know it's coming.
Right.
But it's amazing. There is a very tight-knit insurance community that acts like that.
Right.
Well, the problem that you run into, especially in business, and it really doesn't matter what business it is you're constantly bombarded from other companies trying to sell you their wares. And a lot of times, the things that frighten people the most is technology, people or things that they don't understand. Let's put it like that. A lot of sales guys, they're not marketing folks, right? They're not, right? We go out, we grab someone, we sell them a product, and then ask for referrals, hopefully, and it's kind of on to the next, right? And just kind of build it up like that. Like for my company, for where we are, and this makes a marketing person just kind of like, shake because they don't like it. My marketing budget is about $184 a month is kind of what I spend on marketing. And, my agency is north of 30 million in premium. So we have a large agency, but what we do is we specialize in mergers and acquisitions. And so, when we're buying their agency, we're getting all their marketing, all the phone numbers, everything that went along with it, the websites. So my question to you, this actually does go into a question, is when you have a company like mine that has their existing website and then you're buying other agencies that has other websites, how do you take all that and merge it into one deal so it's kind of cohesive? Because like for me, my stuff is not cohesive. I'll be the first to tell you. Look, I'm flattered that Mike thinks I'm a technology guy, but I know tech enough to be somewhat dangerous. But like stuff like that, like on the websites, and that's not me. So how would you take all these and try to merge it into one deal so that everything's cohesive and you have a one cohesive message and brand? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, great
Yeah,
question.
totally. I see this all the time. Some of our clients go out and acquire agents, but really I see it when one of our clients gets acquired and I see what that private equity group does with all the work that we've done. And most of the time they ball it up and they throw it in the trash. And it breaks my heart Part of me feels like Robin Hood, where I'm like, they did this so wrong. Screw the private equity guys. I'm more on the independent side, but the other part of me is like, they just threw 7 years of marketing trash and all that. What I would say is, when you would go out and you acquire an agent, at least on the digital side, they have a brand, they have a website, they probably rank for some stuff, they have some Google reviews, whatever they've got. If every time you acquire an agency that has a website, you can kind of think about that like you have a chance to have another place on Google where people can find you. So say you acquired 3 agents in what state are you in? Sorry.
Georgia.
So say you acquired 3 or 4 agencies in Georgia, and those agencies had websites, and even though they weren't done right, there's like a score that comes along with every website called domain authority, and that's kind of like how powerful that site is. And if you happen to acquire 3 or 4 agents with powerful URLs, then when someone searches for renter's insurance or commercial auto, in theory, you could have those 3 or 4 websites ranking. And then you're just taking up 3 or 4 of those spots on Google, which is like waterfront real estate. Usually, what happens is instead of making those things kind of like rank on their own, and no matter which one someone goes to, you win as the guy who just bought all of them. MGAs or people like other agencies will acquire them, redirect the website to their main website, and basically like forego all the potential that they could have there. Given like the other side of that is it does take like the management to upkeep the SEO on 4 different websites, but you can kind of draw a line in the sand with like, okay, I acquired this. And like the first thing I would look at is what is the domain authority of the site that I just acquired? And if it's good, I would say keep it and SEO it. And if it's crap, you're kind of like starting at the bottom of the mountain and it's going to take a lot for you to get there. You could still do it, but there's like a very obvious domain authority that you definitely should not just trash that URL
Right.
and put it somewhere else.
So, so I'll give you an example. And one of the things that we're kind of on my agency that we're kind of running up against. So we bought an agency in 2021, 2022 out of Kentucky called Diversified Insurance. And they were based in Louisville. One of the problems that we're running into is, we redid the website. The problem that we're running into right now is rankings, right? And it's because in order to have the ranking or verified from Google, you have to have a physical location wherever that is. So like for us, when we specialize, so like how do I say this? So, our brand or what we do when we're purchasing agencies, there's a couple of things that we're looking for. Number one, we're looking for agencies that are kind of like one man band. They have a low walk in,
Mhm.
high EFT. They have few people that actually work there at their office. One of the beautiful thing that actually COVID did was make it to where agents can be more flexible. And it actually turned a lot of the walk-in business to where it's more phone business. People don't come into the office nearly as much as they did pre-COVID. So when we're looking at agency, we don't keep the location. We typically don't keep the staff. We might keep the website, but that creates one issue, which is the verification side. So
Yeah.
how do you go about, maybe going around that, or can you?
Yeah, totally. PO boxes don't really work because Google's caught on to that. But in theory, you could have a co-working space. You essentially need a legitimate place that in theory could be an office. You could go there and work or do something, but really that can receive mail. So then you can receive that postcard from Google. It marks it as your location, and then that will be your verified office. It can even be a home, right? I think that kind of becomes up to the person. There's going to be someone working for that office, even if it's not in an office,
Right.
that you could kind of make their home the Google My Business address. But it's really that like you need a place that can actually be postcardable by Google. And then that solves the problem. And we've seen it done a bunch of different ways. Back to the original story I told about us having that spot in Boston. That was our Google My Business location, right? So we did the same thing, given that was 9 or 10 years ago now. But that would be it. And then like the website itself, do you have trouble kind of making them cohesively branded, like deciding when is the right time to sunset the old brand and roll in the new one, or is that something that you actually do?
Yeah. So depending on what it is, depending on the size of the agency and the clientele that the agency had, like Diversified Insurance, we keep that running as Diversified Insurance. That's what it's known as over there. Cal General in California, we kept the same thing, get the website, holding yards. But like when we're looking at say like the Miller Agency in Waco, Texas, that one just kind of like we just kind of merged that in. Same thing for the Willow, and we've done several acquisitions. So a lot of them we've kind of merged in together, to where it just points to our main website. Glad we're actually talking because I kind of need mine redone, because rebranded, because it's still kind of old and it doesn't really represent the agency as really what it looks like today. Because what because what the agency was in 2020 is not what the agency is.
Right.
We are, I'm licensed in 42 states. We have we have physical locations in 2 states, which is, we have here Louisville, Texas and Lubbock, Texas, but we have, I call them virtual locations in Arizona, California, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and a little bit of everywhere.
Awesome.
But we stay pretty busy, but really I think our biggest thing is really creating that cohesive brand amongst all of our lines. And I've done a pretty decent job haphazardly of creating a kind of a classic car brand, and really it's none of my doing, right? I've got a good friend of mine that owns a company called gearreport.com. He does like shot shows and things like that, and he did a series called Show Me Your Humvee. And so I specialize on the classic car side. I do a lot in the old Humvees, and so I insure these things all over the country. I wrote 4 of them today.
Damn.
Yes. So, I do a lot of these. And so when somebody searches for Humvee insurance or how to insure my Humvee, I pop up, right? That's just, it doesn't really matter where it is. And it's not like I've done anything special to do it, but my name has been thrown out there so much in different forums and facets and posts and blogs and everywhere else that I guess I'm kind of known as the Humvee guy. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, so I don't understand that world of how the spiders or whatever finds the information and comes back. But whatever it is, I'm glad it finds it because it works. It works for me,
Yeah. There's some crazy stuff we see. For example, one of our clients, when you search anything about trampoline insurance, they have one of the top ranking blog posts that they wrote, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, that gets a ton of traffic just about trampoline insurance. And they get inquiries from all over the country, even though they can only really write in 2 or 3 states. And we run into things like that where if you really mapped it out, you can understand why, because probably that world of classic Hummers is a very small world, right? There's only so many of them.
Absolutely.
There's people looking for it, but there's blogs that write about them. And really, if you're the guy, like there's people everywhere talking about you. And there's probably not a lot of other people that even talk about insuring classic Hummers. So just what's out there, you just own such a high percentage of that market share, or that mind share is what you kind of call it.
Interesting.
Yeah. But something like auto insurance, where there's like Geico, Progressive, State Farm, every single independent agent, your mind share in auto insurance is this big where, like you're never going to compete with them. But classic Hummer, I don't even know if they even care about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because so what happens is a lot of your insurance agents, they don't understand it. They don't understand it. It's not worth it to them because classic cars are typically, $300 or $400 a pop, when you're doing a classic car. And a lot of people don't understand that either, right? The difference on that is, it's really the exposure. Classic cars aren't driven that much. They sit in a garage. So when you're looking at actual cash value policy, it's all about the usage, the exposure that it's going to have. So the exposure on a classic car really is theft. That's really the number one thing of why there's a claim is from a theft. And so obviously in the classic car policies, you have to store it inside of an enclosed lot garage when not in use. But what happens is you have this Humvee, which is a former military vehicle. And the funny thing is the federal government doesn't have to follow its own rules, right? So like 1981, they said, okay, all
You mean the government
have,
doesn't follow their own rules?
Outta
What?
here.
Oh my! Hold on, I'm shocked. Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute.
But, back in 1981, you had to have a 17, it was like mandated 17-digit VIN. Of course, the federal government's like, 17-digit VIN, what's that? So, AM General, issues all these things out with a 6-digit serial number. So A person buys a Humvee, a 2012 M1165. They go to the insurance agent, hey, I've got this 2012 AM General Humvee. I need to get it insured. They go, okay, no problem. They read off and it says, okay, well, what's the VIN number? 629562. Where's the rest of it?
That's it.
Well, that's it. No. You don't understand. It's a 16-digit VIN. They have to. It has to. It's a 2012. Where's the rest of it? There isn't. Here's the title. And so they have no idea what to do with it. They'll give them a lie like, oh, it's 10,000 pounds or more. We can't insure it. Well, like, no. You just don't know where to go. You don't know how to insure it. So I have like 4 or 5 carriers that I go and I take these things to that I can actually insure them on. And really, and I understand that, I own one as well, and the amount of misinformation on how to insure vehicles and what to do with them is mind-boggling. How it's utilized. And you have the armchair experts, right, that sit there and talk about whatever and provide whatever their terrible advice is. But I've just been fortunate enough to where somehow I just kind of fell into this deal solely because it was a passion of mine. I really think that's how a lot of people kind of fall into what they do and how they do it, whether it is, flamethrowers or guns or, your cars or surfing or whatever hobby it is, right? You end up with a passion for it. A lot of businesses kind of start getting evolved around that. And you look at a company like Haggerty, right? Haggerty, a lot of people don't realize Haggerty is just an insurance agency. They're not a carrier. They, McKeel Haggerty's dad just, happened to specialize in collector cars. They built up a good underwriting mindset. They went to a carrier and they go, hey, Markel, would you mind underwriting this for us? And look, we have the expertise. We'll go and we'll underwrite it, and, we could put on your paper. And that's just kind of what they did. And they just, now, Haggerty is obviously the 900-pound gorilla, when you're looking in the collector car market. But all that, as websites and technology has progressed, one of the things that I find that agents tend to not do is insurance agents specifically, tend to not progress with the future, right? It's hard for them to embrace technology. One of the things that I'm currently working on is building out an AI virtual assistant with a buddy of mine to where we can integrate it into the phone systems. And it's not like the Nationwide system to where you call them and Nationwide agents would listen to this and understand. Dude, it is an absolute beating when you call Nationwide and have to sit there and deal with their voice.
Their phone tree is
the
terrible.
Voice, helper to get you to wherever it is that you need to be. Where an AI virtual assistant, it seems like you're really talking to a real live person and it's directing you exactly where you need to go. So the answer rates and the retention rates as far as the phone system itself is enhanced. And that's it. But embracing that type of technology. Same thing when you're looking at marketing your agency websites, the SEO marketing. All that stuff has such a huge play into what we do and how you're able to progress. The problem that we run into, Connor, is as agents, it's hard to figure out who to trust. Right? Because companies have been marketed to us by our carriers, Nationwide or Liberty Mutual or Safeco. And it's like, oh, hey, go here. And then you're spending an absorbent amount of money on something that somebody actually just does haphazardly for you. And I think that's really kind of where you guys are different.
Yeah. What we see a lot is, and I think it's good because insurance was so far behind 10 years ago. And then over the last 5 years, you've just seen a lot of like really shiny new tech come out, which isn't necessarily bad, but none of it really worked together, or agents had to use it in a particular way that they're not capable of doing. And I think you just saw a lot of people buy a lot of things that if you had someone to really know how to use it, it would be great. But whether it didn't talk or you had to implement it yourself in your agency, just kind of got like pushed by the wayside. Agents are spending, on recurring revenue, like $200, $1,000 a month on just software that's unused. And I think what you're starting to see now is the good ones kind of rising to the top, and then them kind of like consolidating and building features that were previous tech, right? So then you're going to be able to start to see things talk to each other, like your AMS system talking to your email system and your CRM, and your website feeds into that, whatever. And then Two, you're also starting to see, like, rather than having someone doing your social and someone with your CRM, someone with this, like, you're kind of consolidating down so you're not wasting money on unneeded vendors. Like the amount of times we go into somewhere and like an agent's paying for 4 things that they don't need to be paying for is, I mean, it's probably half the time. There's just money spent because whether someone told them to do it or they really like the idea at the time and they bought it and don't care, there's just wasted money.
Well, agents are notorious for seeing what it can do,
Yeah,
but then the agent has to apply himself or herself
right.
to learn it. And then that's where it stops.
Exactly.
Because the agent either won't make the time, can't make the time, or what have you, and they're done. Now they're paying for it for their 12-month contract and not utilizing it at all.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, well, this is such a waste of money. But the reality was it wasn't. You just didn't utilize it properly. Right.
Right. So, Connor, here's a question. How do you all at Jumpsuit, how do you measure success when it comes to one of your clients?
I think the number one thing is if they just renew with us, right? Like we're after the first year of every contract with an agent, it's on a month-to-month agreement, right?
Mhm.
So we don't hold you to anything that you don't want to be held to. There's like a small cancellation window because we plan ahead, but for the most part, if you want to leave, you can leave. So success is if you're happy, you're coming back. That's kind of number one. Referrals is a big one, right? Because if someone starts asking who they are and they're in a group, a CEO group or a cluster or something like that, and our name gets thrown out there, that's two, a little bit harder to track. And then three, we have metrics that we track for clients depending on what they have. So just looking at them and seeing that is good. You know, like we'll see some clients are doing better than others and we'll try and kind of adjust things. But the number one thing is that clients keep coming back. And I think when you look at why you lose clients, that's a good indicator of what you're doing well and what you're doing poorly. And for the most part, the reason we lose clients is because of acquisition, right? Like someone gets acquired and the group either doesn't want to pay for us anymore because they spend $183 a month on marketing, or it's a private equity group who has their own solution. And that's the big piece for us is like people keep choosing to be with us month over month. And I consider that a pretty successful relationship.
Well, how did you all get your name and your logo? So Jumpsuit, that's completely different. And then you've got a
Yeah.
kangaroo.
So we're working back in Scott's basement. This is before we even started Jumpsuit Group. I think Dan and Scott were reading the book and you have to figure out like, what are we going to call our company? And I think I got to the office at, like 8:00 in the morning. I got to Scott's basement at 8:00 in the morning and Dan was already there. And they had this big whiteboard that looks something like this. Can you see this?
Yep.
Whiteboard behind the ring light, like
Yep.
big ass whiteboard written this big in the middle. My business partner Dan has a habit, no matter how big the whiteboard is, he writes super fucking small. Written directly in the center of the whiteboard is just Jumpsuit Group. And I walked down and I went over to the whiteboard and I looked and I go, that's pretty cool. What's that? And he's like, dude, I thought of it last night, like right before I went to bed. And I thought it was a cool name. And then right as I was talking to him, Scott walks down and I was like, Scotty, what do you think of this? And he goes, yeah, it's pretty sweet. And we just kind of turned. We're like, are we Jumpsuit Group? And we just all agreed. And that was how the name
That was
came.
it.
And then you needed to find the logo. We needed to find the kangaroo. And I have a really talented buddy doing graphic design. And we kind of sent him these different penguins and weird things that kind of had to do with suits or whatever. We couldn't nail it. And he came back with a version of this kangaroo. We tweaked it a little bit. And then all of a sudden we had our trusted kangaroo. But then what we told people, because again, like we're 22 years old and you can't tell people Dan's stoned at 11 o'clock at night.
Thinking of names.
We told everyone that we were jumping suit from traditional marketing into digital marketing, which sounds really good. But if you actually Google jumping suit, it's not a real term, but everyone thinks it's a real term. So we had this kind of like facade around our name and the logo was cool. And it all played so well.
That's awesome. That is a great story.
What it's all about. Right?
Yeah, which was great. And like I said, you kind of figure it out at first and then you actually start to realize like, all right, what we're good at. And then eventually we got to a point where like we can start telling people that Dan wrote the logo on the board or wrote the name on the board.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Connor, if somebody wants to get you guys to look at their website, look at their marketing, look at their like, how do we go about getting you?
Yeah.
How do we get Jumpsuit Group to take on us?
Jumpsuitgroup.com is the easiest way, but then my email is just connor@jumpsuitgroup.com. I'm happy to always look. Like my number one goal when I talk to any agent is usually education, because the more that I can educate someone, the better questions they can ask me, the better questions they can ask their current vendor. And they can try to figure out, like, all right, if this is the best way I should be doing it, how am I doing it now? And why aren't these things happening? Right. So no matter if they work with us or not, I'm always trying to get an agent to understand like the difference between canned content, AI written content, a carrier's social media kit versus video content like this podcast, like just understanding in this whole picture of marketing, how it all comes together. And then they can make the decisions they feel are best for their agency. But I look at a ton of agents' websites, a ton of agents' digital marketing, give them what I typically feel is the best mix. And I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a
Yep.
big marketing guy.
Gary V. Yep.
He always kind of says, he's like, man, if you tell people and they don't understand, he's like, don't even waste your time with them. So like, I usually I give people my kind of like all in, here's what I think you should do. And if people it doesn't resonate with them, you can tell.
Yeah.
And
They glaze over.
Right. They're like glazed over, like, oh no, I know about this. My buddy does this. And I look at their site and I'm like, if your buddy was that good, things wouldn't look like this. Right. So then you start to figure out who's who. And some people genuinely, it's not the right time, which is okay. But then other people, you're like, I don't know if this is what we're looking for. So I'm always happy to look. I can't promise that I'm going to convince you that it's the right way to go.
Right.
Yeah. So that's jumpsuitgroup.com, and the email is Connor, CONNOR at jumpsuitgroup.com.
Thanks for
We'll
specifying
put that in the show notes as well. One final question I have before we're done. If there is one thing, just one, that you would want our listeners to know after this conversation, what would that be?
In terms of helping their agency or I'd say the easiest thing you can do is get Google reviews.
Okay.
Like, if you could do one thing, it's free, it makes a huge impact, and you can look like one of the bigger agencies, even if you're a one-man shop, right?
Nice.
Just by all you have to do is in your family holiday, next barbecue you go to, grab your friend's phone, be like, hey, I'm going to leave a Google review for my agency. You can just do that time and time again. You stack up 100 or 200 Google reviews, then come and tell me what happened after that.
That's awesome.
Great information. Yeah, that's awesome.
Connor, thank you so much. Jumpsuitgroup.com. Connor, jumpsuitgroup.com. Check them out, guys. This is Devin, Mike, and Connor signing off from your insurance agency. And
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Connor. It's been great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.